Hey everyone and welcome back. In today's video, we will be speaking about data bags. So data bags is basically a chef specific concept. However, since Opsworks is tightly integrated with Chef, it is very important for us to understand what data bags are all about in a high level overview. So let's get started. So database we have discussed is basically a chef concept, and data bags are like a global variable. So generally, if you are from the Ansible background, we specify global variables within the group underscore vars. So the variables that you specify globally are called as data bag in terms of chef. Now, data bags are generally stored in a central location and they can be sourced. So let's assume that this is a central location. This can be a chef server, and this is where the data bags are stored. So this is where the global variables are stored, and all the nodes can go ahead and they can search these data bags or for the key value fields. So before we get started, let me give you one example on what I mean by these. So this is the ec2.tf. So basically we are going to the Terraform code. Now within the ec2.tf, if you see over here, we have not hard coded anything. So AMIs, we have not hard coded anything. Instance type, we have not hard coded anything. Security group, we have not hard coded anything. So what this is doing is it is doing a lookup, and it is doing a lookup from a variable files that we have defined. So this is a variable file where we have defined various AMIs, we have defined the instance type, we have defined the security group. So within the main file, we have not defined anything. Instead, we are doing a lookup to the central variable location. Now, similar is the concept for data bags, where you might not define things within the code, and you can instead search the central location for the values. So same thing applies for the Opsworks as well. Now, in order to understand on how this would work, I'll give you an example of the deployment that we had recently done. So if you remember, within the Node.js server, we had deployed, and within this, we had deployed the Node.js application. Now, the chef cookbook that we had downloaded earlier, I'll open up that chef cookbook. So this is the default.rb file. And within the default.rb file, if you see, we are not really finding any Node.js specific configuration. In fact, there is no Node.js specific configuration that is defined over here. Now, the first line that you will see over here is the search. So it is searching. What it is searching? It is searching AWS underscore Opsworks underscore app dot first. Now, within the AWS Opsworks app, within the app, you have a Node.js sample app. So if you click over here, you will see that there is a repository URL. And if I just go to the repository URL, this is the GitHub repository where the actual Node.js installation related parameters are passed. So if you look, you have an index.js. So all of these are Node.js specific installation parameters. So within this default.rb, we are actually referencing it to the Node.js app, which is part of the Opsworks app console. So this is what it is. Now, when you search, so this is the data bag. So this is the AWS underscore Opswork underscore app. This is what the default RB was calling. Now, basically, when you do a search on AWS underscore Opsworks underscore app dot first, there are a lot of things that you might get as an output. Some of them are related to app ID. You have app source, and you have various things that you can get. And those things are actually referenced within the default.rb file. So if you'll see over here, you have app underscore source and you have the URL. So this is the URL of the GitHub where the Node.js installation configuration is actually specified. So this is what you can assume as the global variables, because here we are not specifying anything. All of these are variables which we are searching during the time of deployment, or I would say during the time of the setup phase of the Opsworks. Now, Opsworks stores the data bags at various levels, which includes at stack layer, at layers, at instances, and even at the application level. Now, we already looked into how the default RB calls the AWS underscore Opsworks and gets the value, which are basically the data bag specific value. Now, one last important part to remember is that data bags are basically stored as part of the JSON object. So it is a JSON specific field. So this is it about today's video, and I hope this has been informative for you.